So for the next session, this is an industry session, and I'd like to welcome on stage Mr. Prinsal Parikh, the Chief Executive Business Officer of Pinnacle Teleservices. Prinsal.
I would say thanks, Rajneesh, and I think a lot of things which came out of the earlier session are really exciting. I wished I would have not got my presentation. I would have just carried on the discussion which panelists made. I think it was really interesting, good insights, and I would probably say the theme which I'm trying to present continues in the same direction. Slot which I have is 15 minutes. It's tough for me to capture everything that we do and everything that we impress. But before I start, I would say, Amol, with whatever that I've heard from you, I have loved the aggression, I've loved the point that we are making and the challenging approach they are putting towards bank. Amazing one. If I may say what we do in terms of Pinnacle, I would rather start it this way, saying that one thing which we all agree is evolution is something which is, evolution is completely irreversible. Okay, but when we speak of BFSI, we actually talk of a different problem where the opportunities are close to infinity, but then you have got a segment which is again came up in the earlier discussion. One is digitization of the things, and the other one is where probably you have digital transformation, which is the new age customers coming in, right? The problem that we solve largely is building trends around the older ones and probably shifting up towards the newer ones, right? Internet penetration, of course, has been an old trend, but if you just look at the kind of enormous building that happens or the new customers which gets added up time and again or every year has been amazing, right? So we try and capture this, we try and address that. How do we do that? I think we are taking up in the next slides. The digital enablement is again the one which we spoke, which is not just getting your customers to digital platforms, but how do you engage them in the other directions is what we are speaking. Journey to privileged and unprivileged customers, right? So that's I think is one of the key aspects where you find your next billion customers. One point which came up by Rajneesh was the channels are going unlimited, right? But then there is a customer who only wants to be more, I would say, focused on a channel and be less intrusive. How do we focus that is what we are solving. And I think one point which should be eye of everyone is how are you building your communications when the journey of Web 3 is getting built up, right? That's the point that we are going to touch across. I think numbers are more or less known to everyone, right? Internet penetration has increased, but if you still focus, you cannot have focus, you cannot build a product which is purely focusing on digitization. You will still have a lag, which is your next billion customers. Where are they coming from and how do you enable that? Okay, so what we do in Pinnacle is, we don't only enable you with platforms which are next-gen platforms, for example, WhatsApp and voice bots, but we also bring you with channels which will allow you to connect to people who have been facing challenges to adapt those technologies. That's one area that and interestingly, we build a bridge between both of them, ensuring that it works in a way where you can have a platform which has got digital approach and which has got the digital transformation approach in it. That's one thing that we are putting up across. Just to take an example of it, while UPI has been one of the most encouraging things that we speak when we speak about India, but let us also agree, when we spoke to the director of NPCI, he says that, Prinsal, we have a challenge of a set of customers who are still not served with UPI. And the next launch that we see is, how do you enable your customers on mobile phones which are not smart to get into this, right? And that's probably one of the areas where Pinnacle can again support up. The other thing that builds up is, just imagine the way things have been, right? In the burst of dot-coms, you have gone for creating a space which was internet banking, you moved to mobile banking, and interestingly, now you've got WhatsApp banking. But is this the end, or is it only refurbishing further and further? I think things are changing, right? You, again, going to the channel thing, you will have to have phone banking, which is now automated, which is completely a bot-based. You will have to have whatever you build across whatever channels. You will have to have a unified data privacy and a security stack which gets built up across. The interesting thing is, now you will have to focus on customer experience, which says that you will have to have decision making on the go, right? So one point which comes very constant, saying that whatever you build has to end when the customer sees, right? So that's an area that we help you to plug in. Pinnacle serves more than 14 plus channels. When I speak about India, global it's more than 34 channels which goes in. But when we speak these numbers, let us agree, a few channels where customers have been hopping up large are WhatsApp, Meta, Insta, Bucket, VoiceBot, and Google RCS, right? So that's where we come in. The problem that I solve today when we speak to our clients around banking, finance, insurance, and probably the lending industry is that from .com, we help you to transit over app. Now, when you have app, you have communication channel, which is more on notifications, but you know notification has got a single click in every mobile which says clear all. So there's nothing which actually gets communicated, right? So how do you solve that? Is using our several channels, which is again around messaging, personalization messaging, and probably WhatsApp bot. The other thing, interesting thing which we solve is we help you to identify your new customers, right? So the model on which the entire platform works is we allow you to discover your customers beyond the Meta and the Google platforms, okay? That's one area. We help you to identify a competition customer. We help you to identify customers, as we said, who are transiting through different journeys of life. Okay, that's one area where we help you to discover your customers. And interestingly, this discovery does not only happens in a format of reaching them out, but probably connecting them also, which is once you have the mobile number, which I think is the biggest marketing asset which a banker or an insurance sector develops. I think we help you to connect over various channels over there, and then keep them engaged, because not every customer that you connect gets converted into your actual customer, right? So lead to customer conversion, you have to do reach earning. That's where we come in place. Just to give you an approximate size, we handle close to 75 billion transactions a year. Okay, so that gives you a fair idea on how we build things. One common example, which I would say, which this slide is more inspired by last week, what Mark Zuckerberg said in terms of his new product launch, which we allow you to offer to your customers now, is that don't let your customers end up on landing page. So what happens is, let's say when you talk about a millennial, he goes through an Instagram ad, puts in his data in a landing page, and you call him next day 10 to 6 in the morning, because that's how your call center works, right? What are we trying to change is, we are saying is don't go on landing pages. We enable you with direct conclusions on WhatsApp. Okay, start a conversation. If you are not on WhatsApp, I understand there are technology challenges which are yet you are getting prepared for it. There's a stack that you are still solving. We can probably minimize the journey over voice bots. Okay, the customer conversations happens immediately. We have solved this problem for large brands which would need no introduction in space of commerce, in space of banking. I think that's an area where we would like to connect. Okay, so we are saying is again, and everything that we do, okay, interestingly happens with a verified identity. So when you now reach out to your customers, is not by a fraud call or not by a spam call, it happens with the brand call. I think that's the difference that we create. One offer which Shomik, when we came on the board, he said is, while there are customers around BFSI, I would wish saying that if you can offer them something. So we are saying is, we are probably putting up across here offers which allows you to probably experiment over platforms, build something that you want and desire. We are not getting into any customization approach or probably saying that we'll take some development time and cost and around things. We are more than ready to invest and partner you. How do we do this? Is with this beautiful team that we have. Nonetheless, when we move up ahead, banking has this point of what are the certifications that you go across, how do you maintain our security standards. Pinnacle does that. A small summary of what we do, messaging, WhatsApp, voice bots. I think that's all from our end. Any questions? More than happy to address.
Thanks, Mr. Prinsal Parikh, Chief Executive Business Officer, Pinnacle Teleservices. Souvenir to you. Mr. Prinsal, can you come on stage, please, for one? Thank you so much. Thank you so much.